Hello, everyone. Sorry for the lack of streams. I just had some things to take care of. Uh, all that's in the past, and I am going to continue on with the Alchemy Department. And today I'm going to start on the Paratech and Partnership series. The first story, Small Town Problems. With that out of the way, let's get this started. Small Town Problems. Agent Denton flipped the slightly filmy paper over, a bend over the end of the packet held tight by the steel jacket. So you think this thing is some kind of vampire? The obvious implication lingered in the air. I'm not sure I'd use the word vampire. Agent McDowell's growling second chin clung with each bump in the road as the unmarked pickup truck sped down the highway. The two Foundation agents had been dispatched to the ass end of nowhere, Kansas. Population fuck all. All we've got is reports of some kind of humanoid eating people. It could just be a run-of-the-mill cannibal. You know, it's kind of fucked up that our line of work, run-of-the-mill and cannibal, can be so comfy in one sentence. Denton flipped several more pages and looked up at the windshield. The scenery going by was about as riveting as drying paint. Corn, corn, more corn, scarecrow, corn, farm, house, cows, people who looked like cows. Corn, corn. Denton rubbed his eyes, sighing heavily. How much longer till we're there? We should be coming up on the town soon. I'm not sure exactly what we're looking for, though. What's the report say? McDowell's eyes slid over the stack of papers in Denton's hands. Eyes on the road, Jim. Not much. A few bodies with parts missing. And a local sheriff who won't say much. Probably nothing, but obviously the skipnet picked up enough flags to send out the best of the best. Denton reached forward to the cup holder, lifting his lukewarm soda to his lips and taking a sip. The gold ring on his left hand shone a little too bright as it caught the sun. The little circle of gold and several other more esoteric materials assisted Denton and McDowell in their role as two of the Foundation's more prominent thaumic investigators. Oh yes, best of the best. When was the last time either of us were on combat duty? They had worked together for the better part of 2 decades, and Denton could feel the shitting grin even without looking over. Fuck off and drive, that's when. McDowell turned the pickup into the parking lot with a tiny police station. Pulling into the only free spot, the others taken up by similar trucks or police cruisers. That's a hell of a police presence for a town this size. Denton grunted. You'd be shocked what kind of budget police departments can get post 9/11. Come on. He flipped the lever and opened the door, his feet hitting solid ground for the first time in a few hours. A groan passed his lips as his feet ached and his arches expressed their displeasure. Copy that, Sam. My back is going to give out one of these days. Too many years chasing after Cthulhu's little brother, I think. McDowell put his hands on his lower back and leaned backwards. a faint crack coming from the vertebrae stressed by too many years of abuse and too many pounds of bad food. Enough with that stuff. We're still agents. Let's go. He walked forward, McDowell taking stride next to him. As they opened the door to the tiny police station, they were greeted by a young man in a brown sheriff uniform. He was serving as both receptionist and dispatcher. Can I help you? The young man's eyes darted between the two agents, resting for a moment on the shoulder rigs they both wore. His eyes went wide as he fumbled on the desk for something. Denton lifted his hands and presented the false certifications they had been issued. DHS this week. Department of Homeland Security, relax, son. Special Agents Nora and Floyd. He smiled as he gestured to himself and McDowell, slipping into the false identities as easily as breathing. Sorry, I'm not really... McDowell lifted a hand. No worries, son. Could you tell the sheriff we're here? Down the hall, a head poked out of an office door, and a man in his mid-40s grunted down at them. You're the boys from the DHS? Denton nodded down the hall, and the sheriff waved them back. Go on then, let's have it. The two agents walked down the hall into an office festooned with various ribbons, awards, and plaques. Apparently, this man had been very involved in his local community. A prominent picture of the sheriff standing amongst a dozen young children was on his desk. They were holding a sign that said Community Brigade. Besides this was a picture of a man with a young boy, which Denton filed away as most likely family. The name tag on his chest said David Perkins. Special Agents Nora and Floyd, thank you for having us. McDowell smiled good-naturedly and tried to put on his best, you can trust me, I'm also law enforcement face. Skip the bullshit. We've got 16 bodies in the last 2 months, and the usual body count for this county is 4 per decade. So why are you boys out here, and how can you help me catch this son of a bitch? David, I'll be on. Sheriff Perkins held up his hand. Perkins, or Sheriff. He fixed them both with a granite hard stare. They both picked up the obvious subtext. Right, Sheriff. We're here because we received a call from the District FBI office as part of an ongoing interdepartmental joint task force. We were asked to come and assist as our office is significantly closer. Denton gave him his best, I'm sorry that we're stepping on your toes smile, and leaned back in his chair. I see. We don't have much in the way of forensics in these cases. Our coroner has been on vacation, and one of his techs has been taken over. All I know is that there's been... Perkins moves his mouth in a vaguely disgusted gesture. Parts missing. I see. If you can provide us with a full copy of the case file, we'd be happy to provide whatever assistance we can. McDowell's smile was genuine, and he meant it. See McVeigh on the way out. He'll get you a copy of whatever you need. Let's try and keep out of each other's way, and we'll catch the bastard, yeah? 4 of the victims have been kids. Denton opened the door to the truck, followed shortly by McDowell. So you got the same reading I did? McDowell nodded, lifting his left hand, the gold band on his ring finger vibrating slightly. Yeah, the report is obviously doctored. 2 months is a hell of a vacation. Probably one of the early victims. Either way, I'm thinking psychic. Denton frowned. I frickin' hope not. Last time we dealt with them, I had to burn the suit. So where are we off to? McDowell pulled in the finest coffee establishment known to Kansas. A beat to hell Duncan, and sent to break. Inside of the shrine to the holy bean blue, Denton and McDowell had spread the case file out across a couple of pushed-together tables. The bored teenager behind the counters taped away at smartphones, while the two agents pored over the scanned information. It was a 5-hour slog through a very dense and yet nearly useless set of autopsy reports and eyewitness statements. Okay, so according to this report, is a very kind word here. There's been 16 victims in 2 months. All of them have been mutilated somehow, and 4 of them are children. I don't see any commonality to them. McDowell frowned, looking left and right over the pages. I think that's exactly it. There's no connection to them. So we got 12 victims, all dead from gunshot wounds, and missing some bits. Then we got 4 kids who are presumed dead, with no bodies found. I'm kind of surprised they even marked them victims. Denton lifted the last of the coffee to his thirsty maw and smacked it down. Be right back. Need another. McDowell waved his hand and continued reading. Denton approached the counter and smiled, holding up his phone to pay for another coffee. Hey there, can I get another extra large milk, 3 sweet and low, light pumpkin swirl? The teenage girl behind the counter looked at the agent as if he was a catted anomaly who just shit on her shoes. You've had like 4, and we're trying to close. You sure? Denton frowned at her. It's 7 p.m. You guys don't close until... ever, actually. This is a 24-hour location. Denton leaned in closer and narrowed his eyes. And if you don't give me coffee, I'm going to start throwing furniture until coffee appears. Capiche? She rolled her eyes, unimpressed by the threats of the older agent. About 400 times slower than necessary, coffee appeared, and was paid for, and began its journey down Denton's throat. As he sat down, McDowell looked up, raising an eyebrow. You've got a caffeine addiction mightier than an 05's sphincter. Yeah. You've got a caffeine addiction mightier than an 05 sphincter. Denton took another sip and sniffed a faint. Diffidently. I have good taste, nothing more. McDowell looked down at the cup. You're drinking pumpkin coffee. Good taste is definitely not among our assets here. Denton smiled and then slipped into the easy familiarity they shared for years. So what do you think? McDowell frowned and cocked his head to one side, poking at the sandwich he'd barely touched. Breakfast wasn't his thing. I don't know. My gut says that the adults are just cover for the kids. No bodies, mysterious circumstances. I'm almost sure that there is at least a 17th victim, the coroner. Denton nodded. That, or he decided that Boca was the best place on Earth, and moved. Either way, I think you're right. So the question is this anomalous? McDowell narrowed his eyes down at the case file. I don't know. Honestly, half of me think this is and on the other half thing. I don't know. Honestly, half of me think this is a non. The other half think this is a vanilla serial killer. I mean, if it's something in local law, or someone in local law, especially someone high up, there's no way they'd get caught. Not in a town like this. Denton nodded and took another sip of his coffee. So, Perkins? McDowell nodded back. Perkins. Back in the truck, Denton pressed his thumb against his own thermic ring, and a look of concern crossed his face. Ever wonder what the side effects of these jobbies are? McDowell lifted the lever of the bottom of his seat, sliding it back all the way to the back of the cab. He reached down and pressed his palm on the concealed safe under the chair, which slid back without a whisper. According to the text, not much. Why? Denton slid his chair back and mirrored the same motion. He drew a heavier caliber pistol and a web belt, festooned with various bits of havoc-causing equipment. I don't know, I'm getting a bad feeling. And I don't think it's like a premonition or something. McDowell looked at Denton, his face set with a concern. Shall we call it an MTF? I'm not tussling with something that's gonna turn us into paste without some of ye old goon squad behind us. Denton shook his head. No, but I'm gonna radio in either way. If the site higher-ups think they should send someone, I'm not gonna say no. Several hours and no goon squad backup later. Several hours and no goon squad backup later. Denton and McDowell prowled around the property of Sheriff Perkins, pistols drawn. The comfortable weight of years and food didn't hinder either of them as they stalked up to the house. Denton's fingers started to vibrate as the thermic ring detected signs of something off. Yours going nuts too? McDowell nodded and raised his fingers to his eyes, pointing behind the house to a small storm cellar. Denton nodded and stalked over to the entrance, placing a hand on the metal, making sure to keep the ring off the surface. A faint heat surfaced the ring on his hands, and he looked at McDowell nodding. They eased open the doors as quietly as they could, peering down into the darkness. A faint red light could be seen at the bottom of the stairs. Denton took the lead, his gun held out before him. Creeping down into the gloom, red light bulbs the only illumination. The cellar looked clear. There we go. The cellar looked clear, and he held a gun down to the line of sight as he waved McDowell down. They cleared the small cellar, finding nothing. McDowell straightened up and his gun slipped back into his holster. Nothing. Were we wrong? Denton's eyes aligned on a large storage trunk in the corner, and the faint light coming out of the far side. Not likely. check it. He carefully slipped out, opened the trunk, which revealed a set of stairs deeper on the ground. The faint smell of blood was unmistakable. The two agents cleared the stairway and descended down into the earth. Rough concrete giving way to jagged earth. The walls of this tunnel had been crudely broken open with a pickaxe and a hammer, and Denton swallowed hard. I don't like this. Me either. Do we go for backup? McDowell looked at Denton with hesitancy written all over his face. He was looking for an out. Denton didn't have to holster. Denton didn't even have to hesitate. The light in the house weren't on. He's in here somewhere, and 4 of the victims were kids, Jim. McDowell nodded, breaking out his sweat as he stalked forward, taking the lead. They moved together, Denton covering McDowell as they stalked forward. The red light had turned sullen, and the source had disappeared. There were no light bulbs down here. The hellish lights suffused everything with an even glow. A faint sound came from up ahead. Denton craned his neck and concentrated, recognizing it as a cry. It sounded like a child. He had a hand on McDowell's shoulder. I think it's a kid up ahead. We've got to do something. McDowell's eyes took on a flat cast as he nodded. Stalking down the tunnel faster, they came to a roughly circular chamber. Overhead, red light flooded in from something above them. The rings on both agents' fingers were practically buzzing. In the middle of the room was a steel chair with a young boy duct taped to the frame. His arms, legs, and torso were all strapped to the high-backed steel. His head had been craned back with duct tape over his forehead, mouth, and ears. His eyes were exposed. From a side tunnel, Denton heard the telltale sound of a knife on the sharpening steel. Fuck. This is too fucking wrong. McDowell growled slightly under his breath and stalked forward, reaching back for the pocket knife he kept on his belt. He covered up about half of the distance between him and the chair, before holding out a hand to reassure the boy. All right, we're going to get you out of here, kid. The dust at McDowell's feet snapped out like a viper. Denton's eyes darted to the ground, taking in a series of what looked like pink snakes rushing across the floor. They rapidly expanded and moved up at the forward agent, faster than the blink of an eye. McDowell's voice froze in his throat. Looking down at the tendrils of steel-hard flesh would have been slammed through his body. He couldn't even process the amount of pain he was in, as invading flesh occupied what had once been his comfortably aging body. McDowell managed to struggle out before the tendrils retracted in an arc, leaving several chunks of what had been Denton's partner on the floor. Oh, fuck! Denton swept his gun up as quickly as he could, but a hand clamped down on his wrist. How'd it get behind me? The hand squeezed, snapping the delicate bones there. Denton screamed as the gun dropped out of his hands. Now, Special Agent. I don't give a fuck. We can't have you damaging the sacrifice. Another hand hit Denton in the spine. His legs instantly went numb. Denton barely had time to choke out a gasp of pain and panic as the prospect of being permanently paralyzed before the sheriff slammed him back against the wall, another set of tendrils snaking out from Perkins' pant leg. Denton saw a new personal best for pain. as they constricted harder than an anaconda, crushing his arms and legs and holding him fast against the wall. His screams echoed around the chamber as the fleshy tendrils buried themselves in his blood vessels, worming their way into his body. The tendrils writhed visibly as his arms a ruin of shredded flesh. Denton didn't have words to put to the fulminous pain shooting up his nerves to his brain. The young boy in the center of the room started sobbing under the duct tape as Perkins circled around, the tendrils from his leg playing out like some kind of disgusting rope from a spool. He placed his hands almost delicately on the boy's head and looked up at Denton. Denton's pain-hazed eyes could barely focus as Perkins slowly lowered his head to the boy's face. Opening his mouth, his eyes snapped open wide in both horror and panic as Perkins' teeth slid over the boy's left eye, snapping shut with too loud an impact of teeth against various materials. The boy squealed and tried to struggle away as his face, a mess of blood, as Perkins, still never breaking eye contact with Denton, leaned over and snapped his jaw like a viper over the boy's right eye. The sickening sound of squelching and chewing escaped Perkins' lips as he chewed with an open mouth, swallowing with a final sigh of satisfaction. The boy squealed for several more seconds as Denton vomited all over himself and down on the floor. Tears flooded from his eyes. You. Fuck you. You fucking fuck. I swear to God, I'm gonna fucking fuck you. The boy made a whining sound for several seconds as Perkins yanked the duct tape off his mouth. The boy's words whispered out. Too quiet for the butchery perpetuating on him. Oh, yeah, Daddy, it hurts. The boy's words. Denton threw up again. The last of the coffee that McDowell had shared with him ended up on the floor. Some combination of the boy's complete lack of understanding how he could be in this much pain, his own agony, and the completely incomprehensible strength of Perkins starting to chew at Denton's rapidly cracking psyche. Perkins leaned down, running his tongue on the now empty sockets, before sealing his lip around the orifice, slurping out the last of the liquefied humor. Straightening as he smacked his lips, he placed a hand on the boy's forehead and murmured a word. It quieted instantly. It sat up rampart straight as Perkins cut the tape. Be a darling and head back to work with the others. The eyeless, mutated child turned its empty sockets to face its father. A rictus of joy and agony spread across his face. Yes, Daddy. It turned and tottered off down another tunnel, trailing a stream of blood from its ruined eye sockets. Denton's ring was knocking against the spongy flesh of his restraints. As he felt consciousness slip away, Perkins took a few steps towards him and smiled. Don't worry, Agent. You go away eventually. They all do. The last sight Denton saw was the row of perfectly triangular teeth at the back of Perkins' throat, as he closed his teeth down on Denton's left eye. Well, holy shit. I was not expecting the first story in this series to be so dark. Oh boy. I'm gonna need a minute after that. But yeah, that was Small Town Problems Alright. Next week, we're going to be reading Denton and McDowell Save $60. Until then, I hope you're gonna rest easy after such a horrifying tale. Bye.